You can't get caught up in that. And ultimately, anything that you try to tackle in life, I don't care what it is, at the end of the day, you better be satisfied with it yourself and not be doing this for somebody else, not creating some image that you want to project out there that other people will think that I'm blank, whatever that adjective is for you. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that has to live with it and live with yourself. And so the reward of doing something should ultimately, it better come down to the fact that you're satisfied and proud of yourself that you did it. And just for you, it wasn't for anybody else. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just do your thing, focus on what you can control, do your best, work hard, be a good person. But ultimately, the reward of a job well done is having done it. It's the reward is in itself.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Business, Your Next Level. I'm your host, Eunicia Peret, and today I have Jeff Stevens in the studio with me. Jeff leads a rapidly growing home care organization with over 72 offices across 23 states and a team of over 4,000 caregivers. Under his leadership, the company has been recognized as a top 10 place to work in healthcare, while staying rooted in a mission of compassionate, hands-on support for families navigating the aging journey. And Jeff, in today's day and age, what a beautiful topic for us to talk about today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Eunicia, for having me. I enjoy your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. And I agree. There's a lot of great purpose behind the work that I and everyone that works here that we do. Really proud of it. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. And Jeff, I'd love your perspective on it is not necessarily an easy place to work in, especially because you get to see the kind of the end of life cycle. And every single time I look at elder care homes and elder care facilities, it just feels like the pressure of life is somehow accelerated. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that look like for you? What does that look like for the team? What does that look like for the families who are obviously entrusting their loved ones to the care of your organization?
Yeah, you're right. It's a oftentimes intense environment. The work that is being done there is very important. Nobody calls our company or any other home care agency because they were swayed by like a commercial to make them think they might want to try out home care, like, clothes or fast food or something. If you call us, then you are having something going on that's serious that sometimes I don't like to use the word crisis because I don't know, that's sort of more of a mindset. And in lots of crisis, there's an opportunity there. Right. But it's something has happened that's very serious that they need help with. We come into the house and it is tough for a couple of different reasons. Number one, there's someone there that needs care with things that they've just been able to do their whole life. And think, you and I, when we get older, we've always been able to, walk our dog outside or take out the trash, give ourselves a bath. And all of a sudden you can't do this stuff. That's really, really hard to give away that type of independence toward the end of life. And the skill, the compassion, just the spirit of caring that caregiver shows up with completely transforms not just that client's life, but if there's family in the house or even that live around in town, it completely changes their life because they don't have to worry about it so much. If you have a really great caregiver in there, and our caregivers, oftentimes they become like family. I mean, they love their client, the client loves them. They end up oftentimes at a funeral, they stay in touch with the family. This is real life, important, big stuff that can have an impact beyond just that client. It's like generational. If that grandparent, say, has moved into a home and we go into that home to provide care, of course it affects the entire family dynamic. And some little 8-year-old kid that happens to live in there has a different setting and environment in their home that is more filled with care and love and kindness and compassion than stress and drama and intensity. It can lead to, fighting and stuff like that. And then that little kid grows up in a different world because their whole childhood was different. That it's a huge thing that I think sometimes people miss that we're just there for this one client. It's bigger than that.
It really is. And you said something, Jeff, that I want to unpack really quickly because I feel it's very important. Whenever individuals are dealing with aging parents, aging relatives, oftentimes they feel like they don't have much option, right? Many options. It's either keep the elder person in their home environment, perhaps take them in the household, in the family household, or put them in an elder care facility. You guys provide support in the home environment. And you just mentioned a moment ago, when someone moves into a facility, how does that work? I don't know that I've heard many individuals talking about an elder being in a caring environment and having some external support coming in. Talk to us about that, because I know that's important, due to the fact that I've heard so many relatives in the past talking about how they've gone in, the elder parent perhaps was in a care facility, and they went in with, all sorts of supplies. I mean, literally we're talking about medical supplies, and it puts a huge burden on the individual that now they're having to kind of go above and beyond, even though the parent is in an elder care facility. Talk to us about how you've been able to kind of break out of that model and provide those services that are so needed to your patients and your clients.
Yeah, well, so a lot of our clients, they either don't want to go to a facility, they will want to age where they're comfortable there in their house and die there someday, like will happen to us all. I mean, or they're just not to that stage yet. So what we provide, it's not home health, which is not, skilled nursing or physical therapy. This is more activities of daily living. So getting you up out of bed, bathed, dressed, use the bathroom, mobility around the house so you don't fall, things like that. It's really important, again, to preserve someone's dignity, that they just want to be at home. And I think that need seems to me to only be increasing, that desire for people. I want to age and finish my life here where I'm most comfortable. Not that I'm, saying anything bad about the facilities. They do a lot of great work and God bless them. It's just, some people aren't ready for that, or that's not what they prefer. And so we fill that wide gap that exists. I'm not sure if I answered your
I
question
feel
there
like
exactly.
no, you did. I feel like it really addresses the need not just for the aging individual. It addresses a huge need for the family as well, because now the family is not being put in a situation where they're having to provide that extra care that the elder individual was not used to or accustomed to. And so it preserves, to your point, it preserves their dignity, and it also, I could see it preserving relationships in the long
That's
run
right.
for the families as well.
Yes. I mean, so whenever I was, oh, I guess in my 20s, it's been a long time ago, my grandmother was very sick at the end of life. She had leukemia. And yeah, I had to do a lot of those types of duties, help her use the bathroom, drive her to chemotherapy, or take her to get her hair done, whatever the thing was. Well, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of responsibility. I had a job, another interest, and a life and stuff too. It's, if you're not careful, it becomes more of a job instead of just like caring for this woman that was this massively important, influential, loving figure in my life. And it became work. You don't want that. So it does help the relationship, yes. And then you get to have a more beautiful ending to that person's life because there was someone else there to, again, fill those gaps and alleviate a lot of that stress and pressure. It's just a beautiful thing all the way around, really.
It really is. And one of the things that I'd love to hear from you, because we have so many successful entrepreneurs that are listening to our podcast that are always focused on, as the businesses are growing, how do you maintain the values driven culture? And I know that one of the things that's really, really important to you is kind of scaling the heart, or heart at scale. How do you scale an organization? How have you scaled your organization while preserving that heart at scale as you are growing and providing that amazing value to your clients and your patients?
Yeah, boy, that's a tough thing to do, especially as you spread out geographically, as you get bigger and older into the life cycle of a corporation. It's just tough to maintain the culture and the feel of why you got into the business, how you got started in those early years, and the things that why you did it to start with. Don't make sure you don't lose sight of that. How do we do it? That's a long answer to try to boil it down to a few points. I'll say this. It's one thing that, you can hear my accent, the people listening. I'm from West Virginia in this Appalachian region. If you haven't spent a lot of time here, the values of the people that are just from here and the way that they care about each other and are just good people. I mean, they just are. There's good people everywhere, but we're weirdly caring and loving toward one another. Like if you see a couple people from West Virginia that see each other in like an airport in whatever, Oregon or something, they just start talking like they're, you know, long lost friends or something. Like it's just a very, very caring culture and environment. And somehow I swear that seeps into your DNA and into mine and in the company's culture. It's undeniable, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise. On some level, I don't care what company it is, but it's going to be a reflection of that CEO. And so the culture that's reflected through me, you're not really seeing Jeff Stevens so much as you are just all the things that happened to me in my life and people that were important to me, and that Appalachian value system and that culture, and my parents and my friends and my little league coach and teachers I had and people in town. Like that just comes out of me. And I don't want to take very much credit for that. That is one of the coolest things that I've come through this company, and the journey that we've had is just an appreciation for where I come from and the people that I get to live around. They're really special, unique people in that way. And
You
that's not
speak
just my
like,
opinion. That there was a
no,
study that someone did on Twitter where they looked through like 100 million tweets, and you know, how often do people use the word love in their tweet? And then they ranked it by state, and West Virginia was #1 in the US. And that didn't surprise me at all. That's just what's here.
it's beautiful. And as I hear you speaking, Jeff, you truly are embodying the traits of an amazing leader, because an amazing leader doesn't just take the credit, doesn't also just give the credit to their team. They're able to really look back at what are the things that have happened? What are the root causes and the root actions that perhaps might have taken place earlier in life? And you pointed that very clearly earlier. So I appreciate you bringing that forefront and center, because it also brings forward this idea that as leaders, first and foremost, the only people we have control over are ourselves. And if we start with us, if I, Eunicia, or you, Jeff, focus on, okay, what have you learned? How do you trace back to where your values came from? How your values continue to be rooted? Then it also imparts with everybody else. And the morphogenic field will allow it to permeate across the team. And that's so important. Shifting gears a little bit, as a leader, one of the things that I know you've probably had to really look into in your broader team and executive leadership team is the idea of understanding all people and all worldwide views, because with 4,000 caregivers, I'm sure people from all walks of life. How has that been? How have you handled that as a leader and as a company in order to make sure that value continues to be delivered to your clients?
Yeah, I think that's the most important part of being a leader, because it goes in with humility. It ties into my way is not the right way, as if there's only one way. Look, if my happiness in life depended upon everybody I know agreeing with me all the time, I would never, ever be happy. I'd be sure to really, truly accept and be inclusive of people that see the world completely different than me. Because if, you know, Eunicia and I, if let's put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. If we had grown up and had all the same exact life circumstances, been where they're from, everything that person had happened to them, wouldn't I be just like this? So
It
there's a
would be
lot of
boring.
compassion. Sorry.
It would be boring.
Yeah, right. That's right. I've gone through a leadership program called Stagen. It's a great program. They're based out of Dallas, Texas, and their founder, Rand Stagen, uses this example where, like, hold up a rubber band. It's just a loose rubber band that doesn't have utility until there is tension applied to it, and then there is function, and that tension creates creativity and solution and compromise, and a lot of beautiful things come out of that. So yeah, the fact that we're all different, that's necessary, and not just necessary, productive. That's life. And to be the best leader you can be, this all sounds very intangible and kind of mystical and touchy-feely. Well, it is whenever you're talking about running a business and leadership, and that's all about relationships and trust. Well, guess what? That's touchy-feely. Sorry. I mean, that's what that is. And to accept other people as they are, accept their worldview, it just goes a long way. It's hard to put into some spreadsheet how that translates into your business, making better revenues in Q3 or whatever, but it does. It keeps everybody more engaged and productive and pulling the rope together as a team. You can tell that we don't always have to agree, but I still care about you. I still love you. We're all in this together. Let's keep going forward and treat people the right way and be nice. Sometimes we overcomplicate business. I think there's a lot of it that's just common sense and just be nice to people, do the right thing, you know.
Everything that you're saying so resonates because do the right thing, be nice, accept other people's differences. Think about how whatever it is that you say or do might impact them through their lens, not through yours, is something that we see happening seldomly and not very often on the financial side. Part of the reason why we do things at Excelstra so differently is because we are different and we started focusing on all of the areas where do individuals not get treated the way that they should because they are unique. And everything that you just said very much resonates with what we're seeing on the financial services side, what we're seeing in medicine, even in a lot of different areas, where my wish is that if more people were able to think outside of the box and put the person and the client, the patient, whomever they're serving first, not thinking about what's in it for them, even just for a moment, life would be so much different. It really would be. Everybody would show up differently to serve the world and to serve their mission. And, maybe if more of us focus on that, it'll somehow permeate in that morphogenic field.
That's right. And what we're talking about right here, by the way, that's for, you're trying to build a company that is built to last a while. All you want to do is maximize next month's profit. Then I guess maybe the way you might do that, if you're listening and you work in some cutthroat corporate environment, that's a public company, you got to meet the shareholders' demands, then maybe you drive them and treat them like dirt, but that isn't going to show up next year. That's not a long lasting good way to have a business that'll be here long after I'm gone. And that's what I'm more about. So yes.
Absolutely. It also goes back to, Jeff, the way that I see it is the business might continue to grow, but who are the people that you're attracting? That's one of the things that we've done and we continue to focus on to say, listen, we're not meant for everyone. We want to surround ourselves with the people where that trust is there forward and backwards because it has to be. And what we've noticed is that when that happens, the results are not just significantly better. It's also just these people truly, and you mentioned this earlier, they become friends, like literally and genuinely, they become friends and their discussions, their relationship is totally different. It's anything but transactional. And I know everybody wants to not be in a transactional relationship. I feel like individuals need to shift and ask different questions. If it's not working, what do they need to do to make it work? And that actually is a great segue into a question specifically for you and what you're seeing with individuals when they're making the decision of bringing in support. How should the children or the individuals helping the elders make a decision look at getting that additional support, not through the lens of, oh my gosh, it's a must, but through the lens of how do we continue to enjoy life in a way that's gratifying to everyone?
Yeah. It's a good question. How would I frame looking at the decision to bring in a caregiver to help me with, well, I just think you look and see if, is this a net positive? Obviously well, you can be on programs where the service is covered, so you're not paying out of pocket. Sometimes you do have to pay out of pocket. Can you afford it? Does the loved one, the relative, or if it's you yourself, do you want somebody else in there? I mean, maybe you just really don't. Well, okay. There's a couple of obstacles that might keep somebody from wanting to do it, I suppose. But is it a net positive here? Will I get to enjoy the time that I have left with this person? It's hard to be very perceptive on that. There are a lot of people that I know. My wife is one of them that she's better at putting herself kind of into the future and seeing very clearly what the right decision can be sometimes. And I don't have that skill quite as well as she does. But if you're a perceptive person, imagine that whatever John or Jane comes by the house 3 or 4 days a week and they become kind of like family to us. It's a huge help. It makes every single day better. We look back on that. We still send them a Christmas card a decade later. Obviously, it was a great decision. It changed your whole life. I don't really see any net negatives to it. again, you got to be able to afford it, and it has to make sense to do it. But I guess just some people need to allow themselves enough grace to say it's okay to ask for help. As human beings, we have this barrier to want to ask for help. It will make us seem weak. We might internally process that as, I wasn't competent enough to handle this on my own. I don't look at things that way. Sometimes it's just, you got to ask for help for people. That's what we're here for, you know?
I love that you went there because that was one of the things that I was going to say, what I would encourage people, seeing what we see on this side, right? With people having a hard time to make decision to make a step in a direction that's going to position them for huge success. Because we got to celebrate what they've done. Yes, they got to where they got to because of the decisions and the actions that they took. And yet at the same time, making a step in that future direction, oftentimes you have to give yourself permission to say, I need the help. And it's listening to your gut instinct. If your gut instinct tells you do something and you're still questioning it, the next level of guidance that I would provide folks is pull out a sheet of paper and do pros and cons. The pros of doing something that you feel you should do, but maybe your inner something is telling you maybe you shouldn't. It's time to get through that clutter, cut through it, and do the pros and cons. And
Agree.
that way, that you will find the right answer because it's going to be unbiased and it will address the need that you have.
Isn't listening to your gut a good idea? Do you know what I'm talking? I find this useful. I mean, literally in that part of your body, I can think with my head, and it's going to be more analytical, fact based, all that sort of, it's cold logic processing. I can think with my heart, and that's very compassionate driven and nurturing, or whatever. It's about empathy and things from the heart. The gut seems to be a place where those two worlds collide pretty well for me. It's a good balance. And it's part of my mind, quote unquote, my mind, the part of my mind that is my gut. It seems to be smarter than the rest of me sometimes.
What 100%, Jeff. And I mean, there's so many studies out there that actually talk specifically about the gut brain axes and how the two really are connected. And you ask the question, is it intuitive? Isn't it like common sense? For me, for a lot of people, it isn't. As a matter of fact, an example as you were talking that comes to mind, a couple of years ago, we had a couple out of New York that came to us and said, we heard about, kind of what you do. We know you're different. We need you to please look at our situation. And against what we normally do, our client service and sales team said, let's please do just a complimentary analysis. So we did. I mean, we know that we deliver huge value, huge ROI to our clients. In this particular case, we went above and beyond and did the things that we know we shouldn't do, because then people start playing literally with their minds. And we showed the client that based on what they came to us with, there was an opportunity to recuperate somewhere between $7 to $11 million. And listen, those numbers are really big. It was for that particular client. There might be other clients where the numbers are lower, and that's okay, but there's still a huge magnitude. And the wife said, it makes every sense in the world. Like, I'm feeling we need to make this step. And the husband came in and he said, historically, he was telling the wife, you made all these decisions and sometimes they were not the best. So in this case, thinking through this, we need to go back to the people that messed things up for us, for them to fix it. And I'm sitting there looking at my team and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm thinking, do these people not realize that all they're going to be doing is they're just going to be taken more advantage of? Somebody has already done that. Congratulations. Will those people that put them in the situation actually make it better? No. However, because they weren't able to truly stay with that gut instinct, they let the brain kick in to say, we'll go back and we'll ask the people that, again, messed it up to fix it. How many times do you see that happening? Probably zero, at least in my experience. It doesn't matter what industry we're in. And so, yes, you're right. I do feel that more people should be listening to their gut instinct. And that's why I even offer up the idea of, if for any reason you're feeling the gut instinct, in this case, let's say that you have an elder one and you're looking at, do you get the support or do you not? Do you maybe reach out to Jeff or his company to see if they're in your state? I don't know, question mark. Or you don't, but you know that you should. Your mind is telling you, well, maybe for all these reasons, let's not. Get a piece of paper and go through the pros and cons, and you will find out that your gut was probably on the right path. There are more things that are on the positive side of you making said decision than not. And that applies to whether you're making a caregiving situation decision, or even just elevating the teams that you're working with in whatever category. So very, very powerful, Jeff. One question that I absolutely love to ask, and you and I talked a little bit about this before we jumped on into recording, is the biggest failure or regret, perceived failure or regret, right? I know that you don't see things through that lens. And at the same time, we know that things do happen to us that in the moment, they might be perceived as a failure or a regret. In hindsight, though, they taught us a really big lesson. Walk us through an example of something like that in your life, and what did it teach you on the other side?
I don't have any real big regrets, and I can say why. This is my opinion. I feel like I've always been a pretty good person, honestly. That's why. I mean, even whenever, you're trying to get a business launched and if you have some charisma and you're listening to this, you're the leader of a place, you have the power of persuasion, you can kind of influence decisions and people and to go the way that you think things should go. I've always been in check with like what's behind that exactly. And I can confidently say, thankfully, that anytime I've just run roughshod and made a decision and kind of dragged people with me to that decision, it was because it was more of a spirit of a rising tide. I'm trying to lift all boats here. I can't think back to when I've ever tried to get ahead or put myself ahead at someone else's expense. Had I done that, I would regret that. So thankfully, hope I stay on that path. I don't have that kind of regret, but there are things, it's the weirdest stuff. It's things that when they come up to you, you could be like in the shower and all of a sudden you just kind of do that move where you're like, ugh, like it just, you cringe almost like, why did I? And it's the tiniest, weirdest things that's not comfortable to think about. Like there's one kid I remember from my elementary school that got picked on. I don't remember for sure, swear to God. I just don't remember if I was kind of one of the jerks that maybe said something. I don't think I was, but I might have been. But what I do know is that I could have stood up for that person better. And maybe though that regret, I do view myself now as somebody that it really bothers me whenever I see someone trying to make somebody else feel less than or belittled or like they're not good enough. And a part of my purpose in life that I feel like is my purpose is to let other people know I believe in you. I think you're good enough just the way you are. You're beautiful. And there's memories from like being a little kid where I could have done a better job of that. But look, while I'm talking about it now, it's definitely done good in my life that I do regret stuff like that. I regret that my dad and I were really close. At the very end of his life, we weren't like not getting along or anything like that, but we could have been a little bit closer. And he died, kind of suddenly there in the living room floor, and the ambulance came. The neighbor called me. I didn't get there in time, but I think we could have been closer. Things like that just when it's finite and it's done, you can't go back to it. They're the kind of things that come up, and you have regrets about that, but you learn from it. So what I learned from those types of moments is I don't dwell too much on the past, really. It's just in my present right now. When I go home today, my wife and I, we have a son who's out of the house. He's in college, but we have an 11-year-old girl in the house. Am I going to go home and be a good enough dad to her today? Am I going to spend time with her in the way that I should and focus on her this evening and take the time to stop what I'm interested in we sit at the table and play a game of chess together or something? Because I don't want to be creating new regrets in the moment. I can't change the past that much, but I can affect what I'm trying to do right now. And so let's eliminate some future regrets, maybe be mindful of it that way. That's kind of how I just process that question. I hope that makes sense.
It makes a world of sense. As a matter of fact, on a personal note, when my grandmother was still with us, she had a really beautiful knack. She had a knack for knowing how to push people's buttons. She had all of her faculties, was clearly minded up until the very last moment. And she could just sense when she wanted to have kind of an impact. It happens, I think, with some of the elders. And sometimes it would get to me. And my husband, she was my maternal grandmother, my husband, who loved her dearly, he reminded me on multiple occasions that the choice of how I react, he said, I see exactly what she's doing. She's doing it part because of attention. She wants attention, and part because she really loves you and she wants to spend more time. So the decision that you make as to what your action is, how do you respond to her challenge, is on you. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, that decision and how you react in the moment is going to make the difference between you regretting having regrets after she's no longer with us, or you being able to think back and giving yourself grace to say that you know you were able to observe, but you were also able to handle the situation because you loved her, you did everything through love, and that as a result there are no regrets. And so I followed through with that. And when she did pass, that was the one thing that gave me perhaps joy in the midst of all of the heartache and the heartbreak of losing her, was the knowledge that I had no regrets. And it
Yeah.
came because of that conversation. So it's something else that you said, Jeff, is just too many times people are being put what I call in the corner of shame. You could have done things differently. You should have done things differently. And instead, what we should be doing is lifting them up. And that's why even earlier I said we need to celebrate. We have so many individuals that come to us that where things are really, really messed up because they either were taken advantage of or whoever helped them had no idea how to deal with intricate situations. And instead of helping them, they were constantly kind of shoved to a side to say, you don't understand. You don't, versus saying, you know what, let's celebrate what has been, because at least you did something more than perhaps other people. Let's focus on how do we elevate going forward. And what I'm seeing is that regardless of what we do in life, when we're able to give people that grace, it changes their life. They sleep better at night. They have better relationships because they're more at peace with themselves. And we actually get to do that. We can do that whenever we work with people. So thank you for mentioning it so beautifully earlier.
Yeah, and same to you. That story there is incredible and good for you. I'm glad that you had that mentality and outcome, and good on your husband for giving the advice too.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful. And yes, in the moment, it wasn't always easy. As I'm
Yeah.
sure as people listen to this, if they're finding themselves in that situation, they're thinking, yeah, but you don't understand. My grandmother, my mom, my aunt, whomever it is, they really have a neck to press the button. I'm like, yeah, my grandmother did too. Just find the love, find the joy, and it really changes things. Jeff, this has been a beautiful time. As we part today's session, are there any parting thoughts that, based on our conversation, based on who our listeners are, that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about this, but what you just said actually brings up something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is the way you said the advice was, you might have to repeat it to be exact, but just basically you can control your reaction to it. You can determine your mindset about when she's pushing your buttons. What are you going to do with that? That's up to you. And so I guess the last thought is something that revolves around that. This is something that I want to articulate better in my mind because I haven't done it yet. So I'm just going to kind of spill some words here and we'll see where it all lands. But that is a focus inwards, and not, I don't really care if it's looking around within your company at who's having success and why are they getting ahead of me, or an ego thing like I've gotten ahead of them, or that can be in your personal life, looking at neighbors, keeping up with the Joneses sort of a mentality, like comparing yourself to other people. That's where I'm going with this. Try not to do too much of that. Maybe there's a little bit of it that's healthy because it can serve as a motivator, and it kind of gets you off your butt and gets you going once in a while, and that can be healthy. But you can't get caught up in that. And ultimately, anything that you try to tackle in life, I don't care what it is, at the end of the day, you better be satisfied with it yourself and not be doing this for somebody else, not creating some image that you want to project out there that other people will think that I'm blank, whatever that adjective is for you. At the end of the day, you're going to be the one that has to live with it and live with yourself. And so the reward of doing something should ultimately, it better come down to the fact that you're satisfied and proud of yourself that you did it. And just for you, it wasn't for anybody else. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just do your thing, focus on what you can control, do your best, work hard, be a good person. But ultimately, the reward of a job well done is having done it. It's the reward is in itself.
It's
Something in
beautifully
that
said, Jeff.
wheelhouse.
Beautifully. If I could add to that, I would say find a way to be joyful in the moment
Yeah.
and always do the right thing. The point about not comparing, don't ever I love what you said about that, because too many people are truly comparing themselves to the Joneses. And it was also my husband years ago who said, I appreciate that you're bringing this to my attention. I was many, many years ago, I was comparing situations, and he said, what you don't know is that while these people are showing to have a beautiful face on the outside, beautiful life on the outside, their bank accounts, their family relationships, if you were to truly look from the outside in or from the inside out, you would see a very different picture. Just because the Joneses seem happy, it looks like they have money or more money or the bigger car, the bigger house, does not mean anything at the end of the day. So if we take it back to just be happy in the moment with you and who you are and do the right thing and stop comparing yourself, what ends up happening, what I've seen, is people truly become who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And when there is no comparison and when there is no looking at somebody else or comparing to something else, you get to actually rest better at night.
That's right. Because when you look at somebody else and you're doing that comparison game, maybe they are really that happy. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Who cares? That's what it comes down to. Is this is a very simple thing that it's the funniest thing. The most important pieces in life seem to be oftentimes the simplest things that we all know this. You can feel it. I should just be happy for my own sake and your immediate family, your wife, your kids, and things like that. But it has to be just for its own sake, not because you're trying to present some way or beat somebody else. It's just got to be, you did a good enough job and you can live with yourself and hold your head high and be proud of that. And that's all that matters.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Jeff, this has been so impactful. And one final thought that comes to mind as you're focusing on yourself and perhaps the pressures from the outside are coming in. One thing that I've learned is that the only person that you, that me, that anybody else can change is ourselves. It's not our husband. It's not our neighbor. It's not even our children.
Yeah.
Our children were given to us almost as a way to teach us to be better individuals, not for us to somehow control the situation. And when we focus on ourselves, what ends up happening is it truly changes the people around us too. Because
That's right.
now, instead of seeing someone that's trying to control the situation, they see a role model. So to all of you leaders out there, learn to look in the mirror, be happy, focus on yourselves, and listen to some of the amazing things that Jeff shared with us in this episode, because they truly are very deep. Deep for yourselves, deep for the people that are around you. And until next time, stay tuned for your next episode of Your Business, Your Next Level.
Thank you for joining us on Your Business, Your Next Level podcast, where it is all about helping you make more, keep more, and elevating your business to the next level. To learn more, make sure you head over to www.podcast.excelstra.com and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Again, that's podcast.excelstra.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.